Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Mish Mash. This one being broadcast live October 6th, 2021. I wasn't sure if it was the 5th or the 6th. Very glad to be back. We have a packed show, lots and lots of things to cover. If you tuned in to my brief Instagram live, well, one, you know that I'm back on Instagram. We'll talk about that saga. And my very mixed feelings about it. But you know that one of the teases that I gave for this show, and Steve, I don't know if you've even heard this yet, we're going to talk about Canon's new lens that is definitely designed for shooting pornos.
Yeah. I figured that was going to come up. Kevin Walk, if you're on, he sent me an instant messenger through Instagram with that, and I thought it was a joke at first, and then I read up on it, and it's legit. So I figured that would come up today.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we'll talk about that, and if any Tonya students are watching, we'll be brief, and we won't have any examples. We'll just discuss the possibility that this lens is very well suited to pornography. But we've got way more important.
And I was like, what in the world did I get myself into here tonight?
It's so funny because when you read all the comments on the lens, like that's the first thing people start talking about. They're like, pornography is just on the internet. It's been taken to a whole new level now. Of course, you know, the internet, well, all over the world. That's the first thing people are going to.
Oh, yeah. I think somebody said I'm all pixely and blurry. I don't know. I can't tell.
You are at the moment. Yep. So make your internet better. That's something we can't control, but hopefully you'll get. Usually you're nice and crispy. So we'll hope it comes back in just a minute. A couple other things that we're going to discuss, though. One, I have to complain a little bit more about GoPros because if you remember, I did do a Hawaii vacation. I took 3 different kinds of underwater cameras. One of them was a GoPro, and they still suck. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Steve, you now own 2 pieces of gear that I've recently sent back. They were loaners to me from B&H, and multiple times I was like, I should just keep these. It was some of the hardest packing up I've ever had to do of loaners. So we'll talk about that. We'll get your updated opinions on those things.
I know
Tonya, you have.
I don't know the second piece of gear you're talking about. So I'm curious about that.
Okay. Tonya, you've been producing some fantastic images. We'll look at those in just a minute. Lightroom has some big changes coming at the end of the month that has me excited, and I want to get the opinions of my 2 guests on Sony a7 IV. Should be announced very soon, and I think that's everything important that I have to say, other than to welcome my co-host, which I haven't done yet. I'm blabbing too much. So let's start with Tonya. Tonya, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm clearly not clear.
Well, you know what? Your voice is coming through just fine. So why don't we take a moment, and I want to share my screen because we're going to jump over to your Instagram. Her Instagram handle is on the screen there. And you have been producing this fridge series lately, and I love it. It's fantastic. You want to talk a little bit about what the inspiration was for this and how much work it was?
Sure. Well, last year in March, when we all shut down for COVID, I just picked up a free couch and was like, I'm going to do a new piece of art every day for 5 days, and I'm going to use this couch as the inspiration. And I just kind of wanted to do that again with something else that was absurd. And so I got this broken refrigerator, and I don't think there's any one thing that's inspiration. I just try to really look at this in as many completely unique ways as possible and just have a fun time. And it's therapy for me, and it's a really good creative exercise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love, if you're not following Tonya, you should be, because she's creative and produces these really interesting pieces of work. And I love the kind of the behind the scenes that you've been sharing with some of the sketches as you were developing some of these ideas. So
Thanks.
It's just a real
eating my behind the scenes in TikTok for my 35 devoted followers.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then sharing them to Instagram. But I showed up there for a week, and I don't think that is the platform for me.
The picture where you've got the paintbrush and you're painting it, that's my favorite because I'm a big mid-century modern Eames fan, Charles and Ray Eames.
Yeah.
And they have a house that is paneled almost just like that. And they have various pieces of furniture that were kind of paneled like that. But I meant to comment on that one. That one is just my favorite. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well,
I love them. Oh, go ahead, Tonya.
I love that style of art as well. I love primary colors.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just feels so basic to art in general. So
yeah, it's very clean. Yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah. Yeah, this I think this kind of a little bit of a darker one. I know you've got some big changes going on in your life, and this one, you know, might represent some of that. You actually kind of allude to that in your caption. I think this is really well done, and again, I enjoyed seeing some of the behind the sines. I guess it was on TikTok that I saw that. I am one of your 35 devoted followers. I thought it was really cool, and it was neat to see the behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, and everything down to like the colors you're wearing, the sort of gray, kind of dreary, just spooky, sort of very kind of dark scene. I think that says a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you. I really put a lot of thought into every single element. If it's in the photo, it's there on purpose.
Yeah.
So that's a really nice compliment. But the one with the arms, I spent a really long time in a refrigerator that day. And it doesn't smell amazing.
Oh, geez.
Gross.
But I will say, I am falling in love with gels in the studio. And I shot all of that with gels, and I loved that, so.
Mm-hmm. You know, we've got some folks that don't really spend much time in the studio. Can you give us a 15 to 30-second explanation of what gels are, or minute? I'll give you a minute.
So actually, I have one right here, but they're just paper. It's like a colored transparency, and I put them over top of my strobes, and it really shows up in the shadows of your image. Mm-hmm. So. And then for some of them, you get a bigger sheet than this. I just cut them to fit over my strobe. And sometimes I even double them up if I really want a lot of color. And then I do some color grading to the entire image just to kind of balance and even things out. But I really plan to explore them a lot this year. I love them.
Mm-hmm. Any plans to use them in your professional portraiture, your work for where you're taking pictures of high schools, students, and families?
Yeah, actually, I just did a branding session for a designer not that long ago, and he was really game for a lot of different ideas. And I was like, I would love to shoot a portrait with gels, and we did. And I did like greens and pinks, and he had the wardrobe for it, and I loved it. So
That's very cool.
I think there are a lot of people who really like that editorial kind of edge, and so I'm really looking forward to incorporating more of that into my work.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Am I still very blurry?
Yeah,
you are.
Do you want me to leave and come back in?
You know what? Once we switch over to talking to Steve, let's try that. But since we're talking to you already and we have your Instagram on stage, let's stay on screen. Let's stay on you for just a moment more and say congratulations. Out of 1,300 entries, your Curious Caterpillar is a finalist in the Outdoor Photographer Wildlife 2021 contest.
Yeah,
very cool. I did not know that. That's awesome.
I was surprised. I did get a notification a while back that they were shortlisting it, but that doesn't always mean you make it to finals. So I was pretty thrilled about that.
That's very, very cool. Nice job. And that's a great image. As you can see on the screen, we have Tonya's Instagram, TonyaWilhelm.artist. From there, you can access, she has two, am I right? Two other Instagrams, or three maybe even. You can get to the...
Only two that are photography, and I thought I deleted the other one, but I might be.
Oh, well, what's that about?
Well, I used to teach social media marketing at writers' conferences, and I had one just for that.
Gotcha.
So I still don't need Canon's lens, if that's what you want to do.
I don't.
I don't know where Toby's started this show off on a really weird foot. I don't know where his head's at.
Well, Steve was going to announce that he has started an OnlyFans account because no.
He is the influencer.
Let's talk to Steve a moment. And Tonya, yeah, if you want to sign off and sign back on and see if it gets any better for you, feel free to do that. I'll bring you back in a minute. Steve, how are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, it was weird. Her video was fine until we went live, and all of a sudden it got pixelated because we were talking off camera before we went live.
Yeah.
And the feed was fine. So hopefully that works. Just kind of rebooting her screen. But I'm good, and it's weird because we got back from Iceland on Tuesday night, and then you had asked me if I could do Mish Mash on Wednesday, and initially I could, and then I ended up getting a home shoot, and they needed twilight shots. It was a pretty fancy property, and they needed twilight shots done that evening. So I'm sorry I missed you guys. I know you did the show solo, Toby. I watched probably half of it.
That's all you could manage.
Yeah, like this is just so pathetic. I need to sign off. But no, I actually I watch a lot of YouTube before I go to sleep at night. It's kind of like my wind down and see what's new for the day. And so nothing to do with your content, but I just started to doze off. Anyway, it's nice to be back. My first show back since our Iceland adventure, which was adventure is like the perfect word to describe that trip.
That's great.
I can't say enough about it. It's still even more so my favorite place to do photo tours in the world. And so anyway, yeah, it's nice to be back. And then tomorrow morning I get to meet up with you in Zion National Park. So
that's right.
Life is good, man. I've got nothing to complain about here.
Yeah, I'm very excited about our this trip. Conditions seem great right now, and it's good. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Oh, and his wife, her company has taken a page out of the Mish Mash book. They've started doing this thing with her team. She manages a team of nurses, and they call it Wacky Wednesday. And they want to get on, they make a cocktail, and they get on a Zoom call. And they've been doing this for a while now. So anyway, she said, hey, I'm going to make a cocktail and then sign on to my Wacky Wednesday while you get started on Mish Mash. And I said, well, can you please go make me whatever you're making yourself? And so cheers to all y'all.
Cheers.
Yeah, we didn't talk about this beforehand. I got my Manhattan in hand tonight. So
I've got my good tea. Tonya, I don't know if you're drinking anything.
Water.
Yeah.
Usually
I definitely
eat a lot of coffee today. That's
I got my water here too. I always have that handy to the show, but little spicier as well.
Yeah. We've fallen off the drinking wagon a little bit. It's hard for me often as 2:00. One, I do have to kind of keep the show to a little bit more of a tighter time frame than usual because I've got to finish packing for the Zion workshop. I got gear to send back. As I mentioned, there were some pieces of gear that I didn't want to send back. And there was one piece of gear I kept. I mentioned that on the Instagram Live, but I'll talk about it a little bit more now as well. And let's talk a little bit about Instagram. I'm back. I was off Instagram for 5 weeks. If you didn't watch my video, you should. Not only do I tell the full story, but I give you some good advice, I think. And I've gotten good feedback on it for if it ever happens to you or just to kind of keep in mind, because I was definitely in that camp of I'm never going to get kicked off Instagram. What am I going to do? Talk about porn too much and Canon lenses? No, it's just not going to happen. But it did. How I got back on was, well, I made that video and somebody at Facebook saw it and was able to connect with Instagram's team, have my account reviewed. Then they reactivated it. It took about 5 weeks. It only took about a week and a half after I made that video. And no, they never said why, but it must have been something in that analytic software running that spooked them. But here's what is bothersome to me. I had a little bit of clout, and I made that video and enough people watched it that this guy saw it. And was able to do something about it. If I was just a regular person, I would probably still not be on Instagram because I had tried about every week after I got kicked off to fill out that form that said, hey, you guys made a mistake. Please review this account. And absolutely no response at all. Nothing. at all. So, it's a bummer. And we can make some jokes that I got my revenge. I'm not saying that I took down Facebook and Instagram for a whole day.
I did.
I'm not saying
a video about that while everything was shut down.
Yeah. As soon as Toby's Instagram comes back on, the whole system shuts down.
Yeah. I'm not saying that I encourage the whistleblower to come forward, but you can decide. Do I have that power? You can decide. So I am back, and yes, I'm going to be using Instagram because, again, it is a great way to reach a lot of people. And I really did. One of the biggest things was there were people that I had connected with on Instagram, and it's really the only platform where I knew of them and followed what they were doing, and I did miss that to some degree.
Yeah, actually, it's been about almost a year and a half that I've been off of Facebook, and that still holds true for me. That's one of the things that really bums me out is there's a lot of people, I didn't realize this until after a number of months went by, but a lot of people that I was connected with on Facebook and would see on a regular basis that all of a sudden I have no idea what's going on in their life as the month passed. And I realized that that's the only way that I've been in touch with them. We don't really share instant messenger. We don't text each other or anything like that. And I kind of always thought, well, the important people that I'm in touch with in my life will still be in contact via other means. But I have realized that there's a lot of people that's the only way that I was in touch with them. And I do miss that.
It's true. And, it's a thing. But I have to say there is part of me that once I wasn't able to post regularly, there was a little bit of freedom feeling. And I did a vacation with my family, and I shared maybe 3 or 4 stories on Facebook about that, but I didn't really feel compelled to, and just kind of enjoyed spending time. And there's always that joke, if you do something and you don't share it with the world, did you actually do it? Yes, you do. You don't have to share it. And I'm kind of telling myself that as I say it.
It was really nice, though, because our roles were completely flipped when it came to social media. Everywhere we were going, I was loading stories and I was uploading some pictures. I wasn't posting much, but I was doing stories every day. And up until just a few months ago, I never even did a story. I would watch some people's, but and then you didn't have your account. So here we are cruising around together, and I'm posting to Instagram and you're doing nothing on it, which is the opposite of the way it's
felt a little flipped.
Yeah.
Tonya, what were you going to say?
I said we did have Twitter. I saw Twitter actually posted hello to literally all of you.
Twitter.
And I have to say, that was the first time I had logged on to Twitter in maybe a year.
That's funny.
Well, definitely, even before getting kicked off Instagram for a period of time, I was trying to spread out a little bit more and posting on Twitter, because Twitter actually handles really nice quality images very well. So I'm trying to share there a little bit more. But what's funny about this outage was I was up at Mount Baker, and parts of that mountain have service, but I was up at the very top Artist Point doing some hikes, and for the most part had absolutely no service. I didn't know anything was down at all because I had gone up there the night before, woke up in the morning photographing, and I was actually using my little sat messenger to just let Chris know I was alive periodically. And at one point she told me Facebook Messenger was down, but I didn't realize that everything else was down until late that evening, and it was kind of nice.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah. All right. A couple other quick things before we start reviewing a couple pictures. I'll be real quick about this. I borrowed the new GoPro, and again, if you're jumping out of airplanes, if you're doing action sports, there is really very little other kind of camera systems that you can use that are going to work well. And if you're so in Hawaii, kayak to a waterfall, brought the GoPro. It's good for that. But underwater video and photography, it's just the touchscreen becomes completely unresponsive when it's wet. There are certain settings you can't change once it's wet. So I got stuck in slow-mo video, and I'm trying to take some nice 4K 60 frames per second video of a fish swimming around in the coral reef, and it's only slow-mo, and I could not make my wet finger touch the button on the back. So I really just want to caution people that even though they produce a new camera every year and they have some of the best videos out there, they're not the best for underwater photos and videos.
Did you have was it the GoPro 10, the new one out there?
No, sorry, I had the 9. I said new one.
They made an improvement on the 10 as far as that goes. I mean,
no.
even the 9 should have been handling that.
Yeah, no. It's just about, and here's the other funny thing too is water will affect the screen. It'll act like it's touching the screen. So sometimes settings will get changed when you're in the water. They have a way to lock the screen so it can't be changed anymore, but it still is just kind of a pain in the butt when that screen is wet. It's just not good. And I'd much prefer for most people the Olympus, something like the Olympus Tough, the TG6. It's those little red point and shoot cameras. That's a great camera with good physical controls that let you do good underwater. And you can even switch modes underwater and switch settings pretty nicely. So that's what I'll say about that.
Hey, Toby. I'm
yes.
hearing that I'm still very pixelated. So
yeah, you are.
I'm going to switch offices and come back in like 5 minutes, okay?
Sounds good. That'll give time for Steve and I to wax poetic about our favorite tripod in the world.
Okay.
Okay,
If
the
you want to
tripod.
talk about the Canon lens, you just go for that too, okay?
Okay, we'll try to get that in too. All right.
The tripod. Yeah. Okay. That you had to send back. I forgot about the tripod that we had the same one out in Iceland.
Yep. So you bought yours. Let me bring it up. It's the FLM. I don't remember the rest of it.
Hang on.
It's the company is FLM, and I've had my hands on a lot of tripods over the years.
The model that we had is the CP30, which actually relates to the diameter of the top tube. It must be 30 millimeters. L4 2.
Got it.
And this, yeah. So I actually bought this tripod before I even knew you were taking this to Iceland. I don't know if my purchase. I had done a lot of research on this tripod. So it doesn't fold up very small. Well, let me see here. But these are all metal, which is awesome. But I have discovered a bit of a drawback because I was really hard on this thing in Iceland, and I chipped off some of the black that's on the metal in a few spots, which shouldn't be a problem. I was a little worried about rust and stuff, but man, this is the best tripod I've ever used outside of Really Right Stuff. And I know Nick Page has jumped on this line once in a while on the Mish Mash show, and he's been listed as a inspiration for me and some other, I think David Carr too. But he talks very highly about FLM. So I read a lot of, or I watched his videos, and then I did a lot of reading about it. And it was basically like, if you want to really write stuff, carbon fiber tripod legs, but you don't want to spend $1,000, this is the company to invest in. So it's a German company. They've got a huge Canadian presence, a pretty small presence here in the US, but I ordered directly through them. It shipped super fast, free shipping, and I am so happy with this tripod.
Oh, I'm not actually showing the right one. I'm showing the one that only gets 53. I think is it the 68?
Yes. So that was the reason I went for this one. So it doesn't get as small. What was important to me, and this may not hold true for all of you, but for me, I didn't want a 5-section tripod. I wanted a 4-section tripod. My wife has the Me Photo. We deal with a lot of those on the tours, and 5 sections is nice because they fold up really small and they can get tall. But by the time you get to the 5th section down at the bottom, the leg is so pencil thin. I just didn't like that. So I didn't mind a little extra height, but it gets up to 68 inches before you put the ball head on there, and that's crazy tall.
Yeah. And if you, let's see, let me show this picture right here. So I was talking about shooting up at the Mount Baker area. I still had that tripod with me, and only because I could get it that tall could I get separation between the grass and the mountain over here in this spot. And so I was like, I need this tripod. I need it. I'm not going to buy it just yet, but it's going to be in my future.
The other thing I loved about it is it does not have a center column. I can't stand center columns. They add extra unnecessary height to the overall tripod. You know, when it's condensed down, it's just pointless. And it's the weakest part of the tripod when you lift that up. So I do like it, however, for my real estate photography. This thing I've used on some real estate shoots, and it's kind of a pain because I have to adjust the legs, where my older tripod, I can just adjust the center column up and down because it's a real estate shoot. It's not that big of a deal. But for anything landscape, I can't stand center columns. And this one is just super stable. Yep. There you go.
Yeah, center column on this Mi Photo. Kyle's asking right now, do I still use the Mi Photo tripod a lot? And the answer is yes, I do still use this a lot. And they're on sale today. I put the link in pen. I think a very good deal for carbon fiber. It does not get nearly as tall as this tripod, but it is a good all-around tripod that I'm happy to recommend for most people.
For the money, absolutely. Anybody coming on tour and they want to get a decent tripod, I say just get a Mi Photo. Road trip at the minimum. I actually say the Globe. What's the bigger one? The Globe Track?
Globetrotter.
Globetrotter. That's the one you should probably get. It's a little bit more expensive, but you'll, if nothing else, you'll grow into it. We have had a lot of people get Mi Photo tripods, but they get the one that's below the road trip. And it's just tiny, man. You crank that thing all the way up, plus the center column all the way up, and you're still bending down, and it's just a pain. You can't, not when you're with a crowd of people and stuff like that, you can't shoot over anything. So, but for the money, because you get the legs and you get the ball head, and both are really, really good for the money, that's the way to go. This is, a professional investment. I just use this thing every day in my real estate photography and then on every tour. And I've really beat up my old tripod. I've needed one for well over a year, and I am so happy with this one.
Yeah.
I got the
height.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say the height to weight ratio is really impressive with that FLM. And the smoothness of the legs, just that quick turn, and they just come out and go in so very easily.
What was the company, Toby, you know about this? It's a company I bought from B&H, and then I sent it back. Starts with an O.
Oben.
I had bought an Oben tripod. They had a good deal on one that was on sale, and all the specs were there. It came in, though, and the legs drove me nuts. They were sticky, and it was just, I don't know. I know that it's probably a pretty decent one, but those little things were just going to drive me crazy using it all the time. So I sent it back. I got the FLM. What I'm not totally stoked about, though, is I also bought the FLM Ball Head. And I got it because it has a quick release plate, like Really Right Stuff. And this was $100 less than the BH40. I wanted the BH40. But this was $100 less, and it's good, but Really Right Stuff is much better. And this is very, very small. This little area right here and this area right here are very small. So with my L bracket, it's a little tricky because the L bracket on my R5 has a space in it for the articulating screen. And so I have to find just the right spot to mount that in. It is solid once I'm in there, but it's a little tricky. So it's okay. I don't really regret the decision, but I think I probably should have just spent the extra $100 and gotten Really Right Stuff. But it's fine. It served me really well in Iceland, and I used it a ton.
Yeah, it's nice. So that will probably be in my future at some point. The other piece of gear that I did send back that I was back and forth was the case magnetic filter system. I will have a full review coming out about that. I ultimately decided to basically not purchase because I have a Nissi system that works for me. But if I was starting from scratch, I say this exact thing in the video. If I was starting from scratch, the compact portability of this system, you have it there in your hand, Steve?
Yeah, I just went and grabbed it from my bag. So this is the system right here.
That's all of it.
And it comes with this case, and this is actually really cool. Has a little clip right here, and I just put this on my belt loop. I had this just sitting on my belt loop every time we went out to shoot in Iceland. And inside, it's kind of this, what do you call these things? Accordion thing. And so it comes with the magnetic ring, and I've got an 82 millimeter. That's my largest lens to date that I use. And then I've got a step down ring down to 77, and another one to 62, 67, something like that. But this is the magnetic ring. Everything attaches to this. And then there's a 3-stop, there's a 6-stop, and there's a 8-stop. No, 10-stop, sorry. Filter in there. And there's also a circular polarizer with a case cover. And it's great because they're stackable. But you've got this on your camera lens, and you just pop that on there, and when you're done, just pop it off, stick it in this little case. It was the quickest and easiest filter system I've ever used.
Yep.
And I really wish I bought the one that you sent back, because that's one I used in Iceland, and I was kind of sentimentally attached to that. But I got home, I talked about it so much, my wife surprised me with this and ordered it for me. She even reached out to you, Toby, to find out she was getting the right one.
She did the work. Yep. Yeah. Gretchen says she loves her Case Wolverine. Upfront price is $511, which might seem a little steep, but that has all the kind of the indie strengths that you would want, plus a polarizer. It's a really nice system, and I just love how tiny it is.
Yeah. I think they kind of took Breakthrough's system and perfected it. Basically, is the best way to put it. The Breakthrough is a great system, but
yeah, it is. It's great. It's super high quality, but it's definitely a little bit bulky, and it can get very expensive. If you try to match what you get in the case for Nissi, you come in at close to $1,000.
Yeah.
So yeah. Tonya, you look better for a moment, but now you're pixely again. I think we just have to live with Pixel Tonya this show. I'm sorry.
You look like
you're also muted. You're muted, and I don't think I can control that. Yeah, it just shows.
Okay.
No.
Is that better?
Yeah.
You sound great.
Well, I'm the original Nintendo tonight. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah. And Gretchen is making a good point, Steve. You might want to check into this. You can buy magnetic step-up rings for your other size lenses so that it goes right on there.
Yeah, I'm glad she mentioned that, because I did find that out once I got home, and I was like, I'm buying that system, but I was trying to figure out how I'm going to go spend $511 on it. And anyway, in my research, I did find that Case actually makes them, and they're not that outrageous. They're more than a normal step-up ring, but step-up rings are cheap to begin with, and that is much easier. So I'm definitely going to be investing in that.
Yeah. And Photog Mike says he's looking into the case clip-in that sits directly over the sensor. So yes, some people are now making filters that will sit in this little space. In this review video I have that'll come out sometime this month, I talk a little bit about the filters that go on the rear of some lenses right here. And if it's a bulbous front element lens, I think they're great, because otherwise it's incredibly expensive to put filters on those lenses. But otherwise, I tell you, I don't love having to take the camera and lens apart out in the field to switch a strength of filter, or to just take the filter out, because in a lot of cases when you're using filter, you might be near a waterfall where you're getting some splash, or any kind of environment. And I don't know. I don't love it.
Well, you did it in Iceland. I mean, all the waterfalls and stuff that we were shooting. You're absolutely right. If you have a bulbous lens and that's the cheapest, best way to go, then it's great. I will say that Canon has done an incredible thing with the, there's an adapter. So I bought a Canon R5 and I need to use an adapter to use my EF lenses. They have a version of that adapter that takes filters. And it's awesome because you can just slide them in and out of the adapter, which stands in between the lens and the camera body, and you don't have to remove the lens. That kind of system is really cool, but that's a big investment. The adapter itself, I think, is $300, and then that's not even counting any of the filters that you buy to put in there.
Yes, and the issue with that I have is, let's say you decide you don't want any filter. I'm trying to find it on B&H right now. Here it is. Let's say you don't want any filter. You have to buy their blank filter, which is $130.
What, because of the spacing or something?
Yeah, because of the spacing. Let me see if I can. So here, let me share what we're talking about. So this is the deal, $300, and you can slide filters in and out. You can buy it. This is buying it with a circular polarizer built in. You can buy it with a neutral density filter built in for $399. But then, where does it show clear? The drop-in clear filter that you'll need, $130.
Wow, and that's just silly.
So,
because you and I mean, we're preaching all the time about UV filters. You spend thousands of dollars on this piece of glass, and you're going to put some cheap UV filter in front of it. It's almost a similar sort of mentality there. I'm not a UV filter guy.
Yeah. Okay, as I said, we got to keep the show to a reasonable level. We're going to move on. Tonya, I'm very sad to say we didn't discuss the new Canon lens. But let's try to keep the P. Oh, she left us again. Oh, maybe she got scared. Maybe she's faking the bad internet because she doesn't want to be part of this discussion. So, we'll see if we can get her back in a minute. Let's dive into it right here. It is this lens that Canon just announced. It is a 5.2 millimeter f2.8 dual fisheye lens for RF. Now, currently, this lens will only work on the R5, and the R5 needs to have a new firmware update, because what this lens does is project two separate images onto the sensor, and the camera has to have this firmware update basically to be able to understand that information and do something legitimate with it. This is, as it says, for VR capture. So, I was making all of the jokes about porn. This will be used for other things, but I think this is going to be used a lot in the porn industry. As I said in the Instagram live video I did a little while ago, not that I'm an expert, but I have always heard that the porn industry drives a lot of video technology. Mm-hmm. And you just see these headlines that VR is the future of porn. We see it in futuristic movies. And now here is a lens for a Canon RF camera that basically you can shoot, and then you can put on the Oculus or VR helmet, and you have a 180-degree view looking around in what you just shot.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if they've listed pricing.
I didn't read any of the articles or anything, but I haven't seen any pricing on it. Somebody made a comment that it's going to be very expensive, though.
$2,000.
Oh, so, that's not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
They'll. I think you're right, though. I mean, say what you will, and I hate to admit it, but I think that people making those types of videos are going to buy this thing up like crazy to begin with. And I know it's all tongue in cheek and joking and stuff right now, but you're right. That does tend to drive a lot of the technology and the traffic on the internet and stuff like that. And it's, I feel that's very unfortunate, but they're gonna probably sell a bunch of these things right out the gates, or those people that have money to burn and they want to kind of play around with this new technology. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
It would be, I think for real estate photography, this could give Matterport some run for its money.
That's an actual use. What's Matterport, Steve? Explain that.
So Matterport is, you buy this system. It's a Matterport camera system, and it basically does virtual walkthrough property. So back in the day, you would set up a camera in a certain position in a house, and you put it on a rotating part of your tripod. I forget what it's called, and it would go around. It would take pictures all the way around. You stitch that all together. Well, Matterport just kind of does that with software, and you have to license the software. And it creates, like, if you ever look at a real estate listing and you do a virtual walkthrough, and you can click on those dots to go to different rooms, that's all done with Matterport. And it also creates a dollhouse effect that shows a 3D model of the floor plan of the home. And it has gotten really, really good in just the last few years. It was jerky and terrible to begin with. But kind of the way that, Google World or certain maps programs used to be. Now it's really good. But they've kind of been the only game in town. So I think that this could potentially give them some run for the money.
Yeah. I was showing, to get away from the porn discussion. You brought up a good use. I did this with my phone when I was up at the Mount Baker National Forest the other day. This is something that the Google Pixel phones can do. This is probably like about 30 pictures. It guides you to help you take all these different pictures, and you can see the stitching isn't great in places, but it's pretty fun to be able to take these sometime and kind of show, especially when you're in a location that I just was stunned by basically 360-degree views. Here's a giant glacier cap. This is actually Mount Baker here. This is Mount Shuksan here. And it's just kind of fun to be able to kind of zoom around in this image. You can zoom in. There's the FLM tripod that I had to send back. It's no longer mine. And my shadow and stuff. So there are practical applications for this, and I'm excited to see some of that. But as we said, I think it's going to be used.
I think it's difficult for me because I identify more as an artist than I do a photographer. Because shooting real estate, there's certain things that I feel obligated that I need to be able to offer, whether it's virtual walkthroughs or 3D modeling or drone photography. And up until now, I really haven't felt a lot of pressure to offer that because we have great people that I can contract with or refer people over to do that type of multimedia stuff. My business is creating good still images that hopefully drive people in the door. And that's what I enjoy doing. But you see this stuff coming through and it's like, no, okay, well, and I probably sound like an old man. Like, I'm going to have to get on board with some of this stuff or I'm just going to be totally left behind. But I still feel like there's no substitution for just a really good image to grab somebody's attention and get them to visit the house on a physical visit. So I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think that's well said. Okay. Tonya said she's trying something else while we're doing the show. So hopefully we'll get her back soon. She did not rage quit despite the rumors. Gretchen asked, did I go to Artist Point while at Baker? Gretchen, that 360 view I was showing was kind of on that trail out to Artist Point. That was my first time up there. And actually, that's not true. I'd been there last February, but hadn't made it all the way up to the point because of the amount of snow. And I was wearing snow boots, but not snow shoes. And it was just amazing. If you follow my Instagram stories, I took a picture. So on Mount Baker, you can drive around. There's a ski resort there. And you can look at this huge pole. And way up top is one of those kind of ski map signs. And it's like 30 feet up there. And you realize that this place gets so much snow that during the ski season,
that's probably about 10 feet or so.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I just noticed in the chat room, we got a little bit of love and hello from, and hopefully it's not spam, MJ Recording Studio in Cebu City in the Philippines.
Oh, cool.
Well,
nice. I love having a worldwide show.
I've actually been there. I've been to Cebu and hopefully
to the recording studio.
Not to MJ Recording Studio production.
Just
we'll go back to that twin lens, man. There's all kinds of comments I can make here, but no.
Yeah. Okay. Tanya's back, and we're going to dive into part of my show that is part of the show that is my favorite. Okay. part of my show that is part of the show.
Now you just have to shut off the playback.
Okay, hold on. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Sound great. You look great.
Okay.
While you're figuring
This
these
is a
things out, I'm
nightmare.
going to go ahead and jump into this part of the show that I love. I'm also going to do this today. You can't see me right now, but I'm setting a timer because we need to keep the show to a reasonable level. So I'm going to set 20 minutes to get through as many of these images as we can. If we don't get to them today, we'll get to them in the future. So that's running now. And we're going to dive in. We've got some fantastic images today, and I want to try to talk about as many as we can. We're going to start with Delena's from our New Zealand workshop, spring of 2019, I think is when we were there.
Yeah. This is right by that church. I forgot
That's
the
right.
name. One of our first stops.
Yep. All right. First thing I'm going to do here is straighten. I'm looking at that horizon line where the water meets the shore, and I think somewhere closer to here makes me a little happy.
Mm-hmm.
Just some really epic conditions. The color of the lake, the sunset, these puffy, almost storm-like clouds that were sitting right above the mountains. There's a lot to love here.
Has Delena, did she do anything to this photo, or is this kind of more straight out of camera?
This is a JPEG, so there may have been some editing that I can't see.
Okay. I think crop-wise, I'd love to see a really wide horizontal come down from the top, because once the color breaks and it just gets kind of blown out, there's really no reason.
Yeah.
It's too bad because you cut out a lot of that orange that's up there, but you get little snippets of it that are in there that look really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna brighten the overall image a little bit, add a little contrast. And
did some foreground get cut out at the bottom there? I'm a little bummed that we have that one rock. Yeah, I like showing all that rock down there.
Okay, you want to continue that kind of loop around?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, you could almost show more sky. You could almost put the horizon right down the middle. A lot of times I don't like to do that, but this is a cool scene. Yeah.
It definitely begs for the wide aspect ratio.
And then I might do a little dehazing up in the sky, and then I bring clarity down, soften it up.
So graduated filter, a little dehazing, and clarity down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very nice. Good. Tonya, you with us? Anything you want to add? She's with us, but she's working on audio, I think. All right, we're going to move on. Thanks, Delena.
Audio. I am currently on a PC, and guess how that's going for me?
Oh, God, I'm sorry. Very, very sorry. It's a PC-free zone, Tonya. But no, whatever it takes to get you nice and clear.
Wait a second. All right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, that's fantastic. All right,
Nice.
so I was able to connect. I got on a PC. This is all sketchy. Okay. So, but I can hear you much better now because I was able to pair my AirPods to this. So.
Awesome. You sound great. You look good. Everybody else will get to see you when we come back from this section of this show. All right, so we've got Sean's lovely little kind of forest scene here, and I think people always are, trying to figure out what's the best shutter speed for water movement, and I think it depends on the speed of the water and the kind of the size. Sean chose 1/8 of a second here, and I think it's just about perfect.
Yeah, so I think the shutter speed is perfect. I think the exposure, everything is great. What I would do personally to this photo is I would definitely punch it up because there is some beautiful moss and just that cool water and the warm sort of green tones of the moss and the yellow. There's a lot of yellow and green. Just really punching that up, and I think it'll look a little bit more surreal. And
Mm-hmm.
but you have to be careful though, is you end up with a lot of brown murkiness in the water, and some of it is fine, but you don't want it to get. I don't mind the warmth and the warmer tones around the greens and yellows and stuff, but then the water, just be careful. You on the other side, you definitely don't want it to be too blue and cold, because that's just not going to fit the scene.
You can even paint over the water area, a local area adjustment. Let's hit O real quick and see how well I painted there to get that mask on. And then you could play around a little bit with some changing the color of that water. You could see if you like it a little more blue. I feel like it doesn't really so much add blue as makes the water seem a little more clear. And you could try brightening it or darkening it. And then it kind of stands out nicer against that bit of falls there. The
Another
other
thing
thing that I would
want to play around with is, and it's going to change the story of the scene a bit, is play around with the crop and crop out the foreground rock, just because I feel like it's a bit out of focus and it's very, very bright. So it's competing with the waterfall. And I think if you take it up like that, it changes the scene, but it also provides kind of more soft light around the scene. And then I don't know, I don't think we have time to go into it on this show, but I've been kind of playing around more with the Orton effect these days in Photoshop.
Yeah.
And I know that's a technique. There's a million ways of doing it. And you look it up on YouTube. There's a bajillion ways of doing it. But I referenced Nick Page earlier. I know he does it quite a bit on some of these landscape scenes. A scene like this could really benefit from that. It really brings out that soft sort of ethereal look around the highlights and the glow around the water that I think would look really cool.
Yeah. Nice.
I
Tonya,
do
anything
really
else?
like that crop a lot better. Yeah. Are you able to hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep. You sound great.
I think that looks fantastic. There is always that temptation to have that foreground element, but this just feels a lot stronger to me.
Yeah. I think a good way to kind of approach that with foreground elements is ask, does it help lead your viewer's eye into the scene? And if it doesn't, then maybe get rid of it. Yep.
Yeah, and another thing to do with a picture like this is squint your eyes. And if stuff is jumping out that is bright, that is as bright as the water, then maybe consider cropping that out or cloning it out, whatever the case may be. Even with this scene right here, I think it looks better, but you can come in from the left side and eliminate that bright rock that's on the far left, because that also is competing. Your eye is always going to go to the brightest section of a photograph and also the sharpest part of a photograph. And that was the problem with the rock at the beginning, is it was super bright and it was out of focus. So it became kind of competing for your attention and in a way that you didn't want it to.
Yeah. And now that rock is gone, I feel like I've got a nice, I saw these, but I didn't really feel them earlier.
Yeah.
You have further falls up there, and those are nice kind of sneaky little elements that I get to enjoy now.
It's a beautiful scene.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Pressman has this leopard with quite a steely gaze.
This is a very different edit for him. Is the color profile sort of out of whack here?
Yeah. It doesn't feel right. I think this maybe it was a night drive.
Yeah, I think so too.
Being lit by headlights or some light that the guides were providing on the Safari. It makes me want to go black and white.
Yeah, I would definitely. I like it better as a black and white. You can look at the catch light in the eyes. So it probably was a nighttime scene that doesn't look like a sun catch light. And I will definitely give him a shout out. His Instagram is You Gotta Love Nature, and he's a great dude, and he does really good work. And kind of very little on the editing. It's subtle, but it's good. And I've given him a lot of crap in the past about marking his photos with his name and stuff. I always just kind of laugh about that, but I love the guy. But I really like what you've done here with the black and white. That's a good way to go. And actually, you could put some nice vignetting on there and just make that tiger just glow out of these the whatever that grass is.
Yep.
And I might just brighten the forehead a tiny bit too.
Yeah,
It's a good point, because it does feel like the light kind of falls off right in that vicinity, doesn't it? So we can just
and the brightest part is the chest, because that's the lightest color. So it would just bring us back into the eyes.
Yeah.
Steve and I have a little bit of a feud about Photoshop.
Well, Steve and I have a little bit of feud about Lightroom. He resists editing as much as possible. But Steve, look at this. We just spent what a minute, talking through this.
Now,
and,
just to clarify, you're talking about Steve Pressman, right?
Correct.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
We all know that you accept editing software.
That's right. Yeah. Let's move on real quick. Steve's got another one where, since we are tight for time today, I'll just say that this also feels a little off in color, Steve, and it could either be a black and white, or you could try warming it up, or if you don't want to move anything, you could go from the white balance and just ask Lightroom to kind of auto, and I think that's an improvement. I'd still work on it a little bit, but I
think that's an improvement. I mean, it was almost this painterly effect that works for this picture. It definitely needed to be warmed up a bit, but that same or a similar effect seemed to be applied to the previous photo, and it didn't quite work for that one. But on this one, it sort of does. So I don't know if he may be trying some different techniques and stuff, and kudos to him for that. But I do like what you did with warming it up here.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna move on. Sorry, Tonya, if you had anything to say, I'm not gonna let you. Mary Madden's got one from our recent Iceland workshop. Yeah.
So first and foremost, I mean, the lighting here is beautiful, and you can see she did some edits. But the next step in this is you definitely need to take this into Photoshop. You can try to do it in Lightroom and get rid of those stakes and some of the stuff that's on the beach, the rocks and the sticks and stuff like that. It wouldn't take that long. I know it seems a little daunting, but it's actually, I was telling, I think Toby, I was talking to you about this in Iceland. I'm like, if people learn nothing else than to use the healing and cloning in Photoshop to remove people and stuff in their photographs, it really cleans up an image.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and those will be super easy fix.
Yeah.
I think you probably can pull that off with the healing tool.
And Mary could do it. She's awesome. She would get it.
Especially that one, because that just looks like he's a chain smoker.
I was thinking a unicorn, but I see that's a chain smoker is a little bit better.
Yeah, just move that down a little bit.
It's a lot of pressure being a Fabio horse. That's what I'm saying.
He's either a chain smoker, he's a coke addict. I can't really tell if it's a cigar or a cigarette.
I mean, look at that. That was the J key. So the one out of the J was the spot healing brush. There's several different options under J. That fixed it just like that. And we can take this one out.
Go over to the left one real quick. Instead of that wiggly line, click on the top, hold your shift key, and click on the bottom. Perfectly straight line. And then you got to go clean it up again. But
yes, that is something that you taught me in one of your real estate editing videos that I was like, how did I not know this?
Huge time saver. Yeah.
And like you said, there's some a little bit funnier sticks and stuff down there, but that's otherwise pretty nice. And then of course, if you aren't familiar with this, you just close it in Lightroom, and on my slow computer it'll eventually show back up.
But can you see, as you toggle back and forth though, now this is really important, even without cleaning up the stuff on the beach, just taking those stakes out takes it from a planned photo session to horses in the wild running along on the beach.
Yeah. Very nice. Very cool. All right. Chris Bartel's got one from our workshop as well. I love when we get to see participants' pictures. Often on the workshop, we'll do image reviews. But it's nice after the fact to see what people have worked up and done as well.
Yeah, that upper left third, there's all those birds gathered on that one glacier. I posted a picture on Instagram recently about that. I think I titled it "Moving On Up," something like that. But
That's cute.
It's hard with a scene like this because that gets lost. It's kind of a cool little Easter egg though, but I would lose some of the stuff on the right side with a crop. You don't really need some of that over there. I think you've got balance with glacier that's sticking up on the left side, and then you've got on the right side where it comes down into a reflection in the water that creates sort of this balance in the scene. You don't really need all that stuff on the right side.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. I almost could come up a little bit closer. I wonder if you use this kind of leading line here to round out that corner.
Yeah.
It's getting a little tight on that reflection, but it's nice. I don't think I have any other any feedback for, basically processing. I think you've done a nice job here, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tonya, anything?
No, the blues in that are amazing. I mean, I think between the fact that the location is that amazing and the editing, that looks really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you can see she did a great job with the whites because it's pretty white in the snow, but you can still see texture in there. Nothing's being lost in the detail.
Nice job. All right, we got Mike, Sun, Fog, Ocean, and Rock.
Right away, first thing I think about is taking the crop from the bottom and just bringing it up. Make that beach into the fog your leading line. Do away with those rocks that really don't talk about the story much. They look kind of like detail's been lost in the shadows anyway. So I crop those out, and that gives you much more of a leading line, taking you into the fog.
I think something to be said here for, again, we kind of do this disclaimer almost every show. We're not always saying that we want you to shoot wide out there in the field and then just crop willy-nilly. But to start thinking about maybe shooting this in a way that you avoid that foreground element that we're cropping out, and giving yourself just a slightly longer beach leading line there.
Yeah, and I'd really consider going with the black and white on this and getting a little crazy with the contrast. Almost making the sky nighttime if you do a graduated filter up there. It doesn't have to be nighttime, but just kind of darken it a bit, and that'll really draw the viewer into, because to me what's happening in the fog is the mystery in the story of the picture. So tone down the highlights and the waves, darken up the layers behind there, and then maybe do some dehazing in the fog just to give the viewer a little more sense of what's in there. And then I would eliminate those black rocks on the left side of the image. And I think you have a really cool story that's happening here.
Okay, can I argue for the color real quick?
Sure, yeah.
You betcha.
So I actually love the gradient in the color going down, but I also completely agree about the rocks. So I think your other option here is to clone those out and to keep the water gradient.
So where would you kind of somewhere around here?
Yeah, or
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I think so. And then you can just get rid of the rocks, which I do think they're not serving it because, like Steve said, they're lost in the shadows. But if you wanted to keep that color because it goes from that really nice like green or aqua color into the blues, then that's how I would handle that. So
yeah, I like that. Out of curiosity, Toby, what if you crop the sky out? I'm just curious to see what it looks like.
Come all the way in.
Yeah, so you've got there's such a defined line on the fog. You almost have to come all the way down below that fog line just because it's so.
And then you lose the layers, and I do love the layers in this. So.
Yeah, I do too. Okay, I was just curious what that looked like.
I'd love to see chat room. Color or black and white. What speaks to you most in this image? And put that we're talking about the ocean one because it might feel unfair, but it's my show. I get to do what I want. We are going to skip forward a little bit because Roger took the time to write up a little post for me to read in sharing this image. So this is the last one we're going to do today. We'll get to these other ones next time we have a show. Pelican. color or black and white. In the pen group, it was pretty closely split 50-50.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I saw this on Instagram and I chimed in on it, and it seemed like most
I
people
want you to hold on, Steve.
Yeah.
I want Tonya to go first.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, I was arguing with another pen member about this one, like playfully arguing. I really love the color version of this. Yeah. Only because it's so beautifully monochromatic. I think the color is just stunning for this. The way it's so muted, and I don't know. They're both beautiful, but I do prefer the color.
All right, go, Steve. Go ahead.
For sure, the color. Not even a question in my mind. For sure, that's the way it was going on Instagram. Because there is so much. I love this picture so much.
Oh, I know. This is maybe my new favorite of his.
Yeah. I think you're right, Tonya. I think this might be my favorite Roger Hunt bird photograph that I've seen to date. It is so three-dimensional. There's so much depth to this. Like you could reach out on the screen and touch the different layers of that bird. And when you go black and white with this one, which is funny because I say go black and white a lot, it's flat. You lose all of that. I love this color one. I love the way it's processed. I love the capture that he got, the speed of the shutter, everything about it. For sure, color. It's not even a question in my mind.
I completely agree. The texture and the contrast in this, when I first saw this, it was overwhelming to me. Like that's how much I love this image.
It's very, very nice. I like color too. My only kind of suggestion that I would be interested in seeing is if you could remove a little bit of color from the feathers, so that in general, like out here, it feels very white, almost black and white already. But then on the breast, we have some of this kind of off coloring, which it's natural. But I wonder if we got that to match up a little bit. It almost be a selective color image then. So we have to be careful not to get it that far.
Yeah, but, I would almost say color the outside wing in line with the body, because I like that sort of yellowy green tone there. It's so subtle. So you want to be careful not to overdo it. But I see what you're saying, Toby, but I also think that selective color look you got to be very careful about. But I don't know, the brightness that starts you off right there, that's your starting point visually, and then you can't help but focus in on the beak and the eye. That being very bright right there really starts it off on the right foot. So I love it.
Yeah, nice.
I love it too.
Okay, thank you so much to everybody who sent pictures in. I tell you what, here's what we're going to do, kind of a little bit of compromise. We'll come. You guys are going to be back on screen slightly. I'm going to switch over to Pam's picture because the next thing I want to just briefly talk about is Lightroom has teased that at the end of this month, we are getting major changes to the masking tools in Lightroom. They're saying major. And let's just make sure everybody knows what we're talking about. When we're talking about masking in Lightroom right now, it doesn't really use that term, but you have the graduated filter, the radial filter, and the adjustment brush. Those are all ways to kind of affect only a portion of the image. It's masking. It's just doing it in a slightly different way. What Lightroom says is coming is a much more precise ability, and it's almost like layers. They're going to allow you to name these different masks and return back to them very easily. Because, let's say, for instance, I get a couple of these graduated filters on the page. What I see a lot of people have trouble with in my workshops, and also it happens to me from time to time, is you want to go back and now work again on some of those selective adjustments. Well, where are they? You have to go back into that tool, and then you have to find the pin. And sometimes if you've got multiple on top of each other, it can be difficult to figure out which pin is doing what. So that is supposed to be changing. That's exciting. That's exciting.
Yeah, that was on my wish list, is something closer to layers for Lightroom.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see just how far it's changing. They said they had to go back basically and really rewrite huge chunks of code the way Lightroom has worked, because you're not really affecting things on the pixel level in Lightroom. And that's one of the reasons why it's kind of content aware and healing brush tools suck. They're very limited because you're not really working on the pixel level. And these new masking tools do work more on a pixel level. So I'm really excited to see that. The other thing I want to point out is we do have some, and Pam's kind of nice fall colors is a great example of that. Let's say, for instance, that we wanted to affect just part of the red leaves here. If we hit the O key, I have to invert this. So now I'm affecting inside the circle, but I can further refine it to be just a color. Let's pick the red on one of those leaves right there. And notice how that popped off. Let me hit Shift O. Let's see what, or the white I think shows up better. This is just the overlay showing you that now I'm affecting only the kind of redder color leaves in this area. So you can do some really nice, precise, let's be extreme and just take exposure way down so you can really see what I'm doing, or way up. Or more practically, maybe you want to make them seem even more red, or bump up the saturation just in that area. So I think there's good tools there already is what I'm trying to say. And I'm excited to see these big changes coming. And I wonder if they'll give us hints of anything more coming, like Tonya, true layers.
Yeah, I've always wondered with Lightroom if they would start incorporating some of the AI functionality that you're starting to see in some of these other software companies that, quite frankly, are giving Adobe some run for the money. I mean, Adobe is still just, Photoshop is still the gorilla in the room, but it's pretty amazing what you can do with some of the other companies' tools now when it comes to affecting certain areas and not, well, I guess they're all working at the pixel level, right? The way Photoshop is, where Lightroom is consistently hanging on to that being non-destructive, which I definitely understand all the benefits of that too, but it does very much limit you on what you can do.
Yeah, yeah. As Roy's pointing out rightly in chat, the bonus is that basically, it's simple text files. It's all buried in the catalog, and so it stays relatively reasonable in size, and of course, it's non-destructive. But there are some drawbacks to that. So. There's some really strong competitors. I was on a conference call with the DxO folks just yesterday morning, and what they have coming is very, very exciting. Some big changes as well, and there's some strong competitors, and I hope that they are Adobe feels that and is putting forth good quality stuff. Yeah,
because we're all going to benefit from it. The DxOs and the Luminars and everybody out there giving them.
I have to slide over. I'm in my maintenance office at school, so this is really I got weird stuff.
I've ended up with a dog on my lap, so
I have a giraffe that I reupholstered.
I'm trying to get to the Sony Alpha Rumor site because the last thing we're going to talk about is the a7 IV. This information seems pretty legit. Confirmed that it'll be announced on October 21st. I think that's the day we leave for Italy. I'm not sure. So I don't know how much I'll be able to share about it. But 33 megapixel sensor, 15 stops at dynamic range, 3 million EVF, and the LCD is improved too. I hope so. 4K 30 and 4K 60. 5.5 stops of IBIS, and the A7S III body, which means fully articulating flip-out screen, and the new menu system from the Sony A7S, price about $24.99, which puts it right there in kind of the R6 territory. So this is the camera that Sony sees as matching up right up against the Canon R6 camera. Looks good. Looks very nice. Does it say anything about improved autofocus? I think it will be improved autofocus over the Sony a7 III. How much improved? How much will it borrow from their flagship, the A1? We don't really know. But for $24.99, I think this is going to be a very, very nice, very compelling camera for a lot of people. Yeah.
Yep.
You aren't Sony folks. You don't have anything to say.
I was just going to say, yep, it's a Sony.
Yeah. Archer has as much to say about it as you two do.
It's got all the great stuff on paper. A bunch of people are going to buy it, and they're going to hate the menu system, but they make good stuff.
The new menu is better. I will say, so I was, at a very photogenic spot Monday morning. There were a handful of other photographers there, and there were a lot of Sony cameras.
Oh, they're all over the place. I'm actually getting familiar with the Sony menu system, kind of. Although it amazes me how much it differs from one camera to another, or just a couple years newer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, I think that's a good spot to wrap up the show. Let's say if you've watched this far and you haven't already, it's really nice if you take a moment to give the show a thumbs up. That's a very nice way to thank all of us for our time and let the YouTube algorithm know that this show is worth watching. If for some reason you're not a subscriber, it's very nice to hit that subscribe button along with the bell so you'll be notified of future videos. But you should also follow my wonderful co-hosts on Instagram. That's a nice way to thank them for their time. Tonya Wilhelm.artist is the best single Instagram to go to, but from there you can get to her other Instagrams and see what she's up to. And she's on TikTok. I don't know how to tell people to find people on TikTok, but
don't bother.
You can find her on TikTok.
Don't bother.
Yes, we talked about this clock thing. I still don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, Mr. YouTube watching dog fart videos. That's made for TikTok.
One of these days, we're going to have to really let people know what goes on tours behind the scenes.
Oh, I think they know. No, you're right. That guy who does watch YouTube videos of some guy farting on people's dogs is it
wasn't dog fart videos. It was Humor Bagel. Humor Bagel. The guy is hilarious if you're into that kind of humor. Yeah.
It was funny. It was funny. As I was trying to plan the next day's adventure, Steve is there watching people farting on dogs.
Well, he had time because his room was clean.
Oh.
Thank you. Thank you, Tonya. And
I did watch the stories.
I'm a better guy on tour when I can just let my brain shut down and watch Humor Bagel for an hour. Actually, it's like 10 minutes. I couldn't watch that guy for an hour.
Yeah, it wasn't that long. Yeah, it's good. But despite watching Humor Bagel, Steve posts fantastic images, and he's been posting some killer ones from our Iceland workshop. You can go see those at Scurich on Instagram, and he's posting stories occasionally as well. I mean, he's full on into the influencer world now.
Yeah,
he had to pick up my slack.
Well, yeah, now that you're back, I can finally back off of it. Although now we're going to have a bunch of cool Zion pictures, so I'll keep posting.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you guys for suffering all my pixelated internet issues today. I don't know what my deal is here, but it must be like in town because I changed buildings. So still bad.
Yeah, that is interesting. Maybe it is. You definitely were better this last time that you came back. But, even though you were pixelated, you had wonderful things to say. And so I really appreciate your time with us. Same goes for you too, Steve, even though you weren't pixelated. We didn't talk about Steve's nice haircut, but it looks good. It's
I did. I thought that was going to be the talk of the whole show.
I said, yeah, well, it's kind of old news now, right? I got it cut right when I got back from Iceland. I had to sport the man bun in Iceland, and then I got home. I was like, it's time to say goodbye to the COVID hair. As I put it, I went from surf bum to Wall Street in 30 minutes. So, yeah, I'm back to the same old haircut that I've had for most of my life. But it does feel good. It's nice.
Suits you well. It suits you well. Yeah. All right. And if anybody's still watching at this very moment and they want to be part of a fantastic community of folks, you can consider joining the Photo Enthusiast Network, photoenthusiastnetwork.com or photorec.tv/pen will get you there with lots of good information about that. All right, Tonya, thank you so much. Steve, thank you so much.
All right,
no show next week because I will be in Zion. But I think I have time to do the show the week after before I leave for Italy. It's a rough life. It's rough. But till next time. Bye-bye, everybody.